Hello everyone, this is Maro, and today I'm going to be showing you guys a couple of tricks to help you go faster in your Majora's Mask Randomizer seeds. Now a lot of these tricks are the same tricks used by racers whenever they're trying to race each other to go as fast as possible. However, these should be applicable to pretty much any seed that you generate with the randomizer. On that note, I'm going to be using the standard settings as a baseline for this tutorial. However, again, it should be applicable to pretty much any settings that you put into the randomizer. You'll just have to understand the differences. I highly recommend everyone try out the standard settings at least once because they really are a community-made settings that are meant to represent a great MMR experience. So the first thing you're going to want to know is hints. Hints are going to be probably the biggest possible time save you can have in any seed. Now, I'm not going to go over the random or relevant hint options because these are generally pretty straightforward. And I'm also not going to cover non-clear hints. Those are kind of meant for you to just kind of figure out yourself. What we're specifically going to be focusing on is competitive hints. Now, I know these say competitive, but I actually highly recommend using these hints just in general. They're a great balanced hint system. The first thing you're going to need to understand about competitive hints is what Way of the Hero is and what it means. Basically, whenever you read a hint, sometimes it will say a certain location is considered Way of the Hero. What this means is that there is at least one item there required to beat the game. Now, whenever you hear that, the first thing that comes to mind is something like Deku Mask or Fire Arrows, but actually it can be a little more nuanced than that. As an example, imagine you get a hint that says Road to Southern Swamp is Way of the Hero. So let's say you go check Road to Southern Swamp and the grotto has Postman's Hat. Well, Postman's Hat itself is not necessarily required to beat the game, however, it is now considered a Way of the Hero item. What this means is that anything unlocked by Postman's Hat is considered Way of the Hero. In this case, that's only one heart piece, so you go check that heart piece and it could be something important, such as Zora Mask or bombs. It could even end up being another item that unlocks more checks, which those would also be considered Way of the Hero, such as Land Title Deed. Land Title Deed could lead to either turning in the Land Title Deed, or it could be used as toilet paper for Toilet Hand, which means both of these are now considered Way of the Hero. Keeping track of your Way of the Hero locations, as well as the items you find there, can be a huge help whenever you're trying to shorten the length of your seeds. Now, on the flip side of Way of the Hero, you can have Foolish or Barren locations. These are effectively the exact opposite. If you get a hint saying an area is barren, that means there's no item there that you need to collect in order to beat the game, meaning you can completely skip every check in that area. This is great for getting areas like Bottom of the Well or Mountain Village, because these include lengthy checks that you don't even have to worry about doing anymore, because you know that you will never have to do them in order to beat the game. Additionally, competitive hints also include some other more specific locations, like Dampe or Spider Houses. These are checks that can take several minutes just by themselves. However, if you find a hint saying that one of them is not important, such as like a red rupee or something of the like, then you just saved several minutes just by reading this hint. By keeping track of all of these hints and utilizing them effectively, you can shave maybe even over an hour off of your final time. Think about it. How long would you spend checking Dampe Grave, the Spider Houses, and maybe even clearing an entire area that you didn't need to? Now, keeping track of these isn't super easy, so that kind of leads into the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is notes. Notes are going to be super helpful whenever you're playing Majora's Mask Randomizer. You can keep track of your Way of the Hero locations, your Barren locations, which checks you found that aren't important anymore, as well as where you found specific trade items, such as title deeds or letters. The reason you'd want to keep track of these is because you might need them again in a future cycle. So I highly recommend writing these down. I do that in pretty much every seed that I play. Other things that might be important to write down if you have them randomized would be Red Potion, because you need to get red potions for both Shiro and the Witch. Blue Potion, in case you need to do Bottom of the Well. Any item related to the Andrew and Cafe questline, in case you need to do that. And keys, if you have those randomized. You're definitely going to need to find keys again. At the end of the day, going fast in a randomizer is all about keeping track of information, and just taking notes is the easiest way to do that. Alright, so now that we understand hints and we've taken notes, the next part is trying to understand how to prioritize where you need to check next. To do that, we're going to use what's called spheres. The easiest way to explain how spheres work is to simply give you an example. Right from the beginning of the game, there's going to be a handful of checks that you can get to before you find any items whatsoever. All of these checks are going to be considered within Sphere 0. Now, as you collect these Sphere 0 checks, you're going to find items. Anything that these items unlock are going to be considered within Sphere 1. These are checks that you can access by using only items found in Sphere 0. So say you got Hookshot in P-Hat Grotto. Well, that's going to make South Clocktown Chest Sphere 1, because now you can use your Sphere 0 Hookshot to get to this. Furthermore, any items found in Sphere 1 will unlock access to items found in Sphere 2. So Sphere 2 is now any checks that you can access using items from Sphere 1 and Sphere 0. And this goes on and on. So Sphere 3 would be 0, 1, or 2 items lead to Sphere 3. The reason these spheres are important is because the lower a sphere a check is, the more likely it is to be an important item. This means Sphere 0 checks are the most likely checks to be important items, and should be prioritized as such. Another contributing factor towards a check being important would be how many requirements it has. The more requirements a check will have, the more likely it is to be important. This means a Sphere 2 check that has 5 requirements will be more likely to be important than a Sphere 2 check that only has 2. For example, say you have a seed where you start with Epona's Song. Then you find Garo Mask, Light Arrows, and Magic within Sphere 0. Then you go on to find Bow and Hookshot in Sphere 1. Gaining access to these 2 ranged items would give you access to Tingle Maps. However, all of 5 of these items together would give you access to Secret Shrine. So now both Tingle and Secret Shrine are in Sphere 2. However, the checks within Secret Shrine have more requirements and thus are more likely to be important items. Keep in mind, spheres will generally trump requirements. So a Sphere 3 check with 2 requirements is probably less likely to be important than a Sphere 1 check with only 1 requirement. Now that we've gone over spheres, the final thing that I would want to go over is routing. Now, due to the nature of a randomizer, you can't route the entire run. However, there are key instances in which you can have a route ready to help you speed up your gameplay. The most important route would be your opening route, which is a route that you'll take as soon as you start the game, in which you'll prioritize gathering Sphere 0 checks and hints. You can also have a more broad objective of collecting all of the timed checks within the first cycle, as that's generally the fastest way to handle it. There are a lot of different opening routes, and I highly encourage you to do your own research and come up with your own route. However, I'm going to go ahead and give you an example of my opening route right now. So the first thing I do whenever I start an MMR seed is collect the heart piece on the clock tower. Then I jump down and I hit the owl. Owls help you quickly get around the world, and it's going to come in handy and save time later. Immediately from there, I'm going to go down to the South Clocktown chest and use a trick to get up here and collect it. While this is technically out of logic, and that's something I'm going to need to think about moving forward, it's nice to collect another check right here, right now. From there, I'm going to exit South Clocktown and run down to the P-Hat Grotto. This is going to be another Sphere 0 check, so I'm simply going to kill the P-Hat and collect my reward. From there, I'm going to leave and read this first hint. It is important to prioritize hints early because the sooner you have access to this information, the sooner you can start formulating an informed route moving forward. From there, I'm going to head towards Ranch. Here, I'm going to hit another owl, and I'm going to get another hint. From here, I'm going to go back to Termina Field and then start heading east. There's a grotto right here that has 4 hints in it. All 4 of these Gossip Grottos have the same 4 hints, so it doesn't really matter which one you go to. I'm going to collect all 4 of these hints and start moving on from there. Exiting that grotto, I'm going to continue east to collect another hint. From there, there's a grotto here that I can get that's Sphere 0, and then there's a chest in the tall grass that I can collect. Keep in mind that most of the checks that I've done so far have all been Sphere 0s, and that's the primary goal of your opening route. From there, I'm going to bump into this tree in order to collect these rupees. Another Sphere 0 check is going to be the 200 rupee bank reward, so I need to get rupees as fast as possible. Then I can continue towards the Pillar Grotto to collect that, and then assess what time it is on the clock. An important factor in your opening route and your first cycle in general is to keep an eye on the time to collect all the time checks so you don't have to worry about them later. I still have plenty of time here, so I'm going to continue to collect a couple more hints. Then I'm going to talk to Tattle at this fence. I'll explain what that's about later. After talking to Tattle at this gate, I'm going to soar back to Clocktown and head to East Clocktown. Once I'm in East Clocktown, I'm going to go ahead and collect the check from Mama. Then I'm going to get to East Clocktown chest. Looking at the time, I see that I can get room key check, so I'm going to go ahead and get that now. This was not a coincidence. This route is actually designed to land me in East Clocktown right around the time for room key check.
From here, my route opens up for a bit of flexibility. My next major objective is going to be Blast Mask at midnight. However, I need to get Town Ferry before it becomes nighttime. Once it becomes nighttime, I can also get Bremen Mask check from Music Guy. So I'm just going to head to Laundry Pool, grab the ferry, and skip to night. This will also advance me closer to my Blast Mask check, which saves more time. Now I have no way of advancing time until midnight, but that's actually fine, because up to this point I've had plenty of opportunities in order to collect items, which can alter my route and let me get a couple of checks. There's also a couple more Sphere Zero checks around Clocktown that I can obtain while I wait for Blast Mask. I can be sure to deposit rupees, kill the Dodongos to get that check and more rupees. I can do Sword School, and I might even have time to do Bomber's Hideout before Blast Mask check. After getting back to North Clocktown in time to catch Blast Mask check, this is where my opening route generally ends. Most of the time I'll end up going to Swamp after this, but it really does depend on what items I've collected up to this point, as I've had plenty of time in order to get enough items to give me a better idea of where I'm going to be going. If I don't have any items directing me towards something within Clocktown, then I'm going to head straight to Swamp so that I can be there by day 2 in order to get day 2 Grotto. As you can see, throughout my opening route, I've already collected a good chunk of timed checks, which many cite as one of the more daunting tasks of Majora's Mask Randomizer. Going into your first cycle with a solid plan of how you're going to handle timed checks can actually mitigate them quite a bit. The rest of my opening route is mostly just first cycle time checks. On day 3, I can check the chest in Doggy Racetrack, and I can check the Stockpot Inn staff room chest. I can also turn in paper to Toilet Hand if I happen to find any. And finally, I need to be sure to check All Knight's Mask, since I've saved Blast Mask Lady this cycle, and I'm not going to want to go out of my way to do that again once I have Giant's Wallet, if I don't have to. Once I've finished up the last couple of time checks for the cycle, I'm going to go ahead and play Song of Time to reset the cycle. Starting with my second cycle, I'm going to utilize a combination of spheres and hints in order to prioritize where I need to go next for the rest of the run, at least until I get to dungeons. Past your opening route, the next most important routes to understand are dungeon routes. Each dungeon is generally going to have 2 routes, with a little bit of variance based on the items that you have. The first route is going to be what we call full clear. A full clear route ensures that you get every check on your way towards beating the dungeon. On the flip side, if you already have every item that you need in order to beat the game, you simply want to beat the dungeon. So this is what I'm going to call a go mode route. Go mode simply means you're not trying to get any more checks, you're just trying to beat the game. Knowing which route you need to use going into a dungeon can help you save a lot of time. Even with a bit of variance based on your items, go mode routes and full clear routes are generally fairly consistent. I'm actually not going to get as into dungeon routes as I did my opening route, as these change from season to season and especially from seed to seed depending on your settings. However, if you're trying to go fast, it is good to keep these in mind. Before ending this video, there's one more important detail that I wanted to touch on. Song checks are extremely important to Majora's Mask Randomizer. Throughout your run, song checks help provide a bit more goal-oriented gameplay as they are guaranteed locations for important items. A song can grant access to an entire temple, or sometimes even whole parts of the game. Because of this, anytime a song check becomes available, they should be highly prioritized. Shuffling songs with items is probably the most underrated setting in terms of how much time it will add to your run. Without the structure that guaranteed song locations provides to a run, an MMR seed will take dramatically longer. I highly recommend leaving songs mixed amongst themselves. And with that final piece of information, that is all I have. Hopefully some of the information in this video was intelligible and you could follow it and it didn't put you to sleep. And it helps. Hopefully it helps. If you want more content like this, that's tough. I don't really do this very often. I'm not a YouTuber. Don't subscribe. If you do want to follow me though, go ahead and follow me on Twitch. I do stream from time to time, and I love streaming Majora's Mask Randomizer. So if you do want more MMR content, that is definitely the place to find me. And because I don't know how to end any of my videos, I'm just going to end it with a clip from my Twitch channel. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in my Twitch.
There comes a point in every man's life where he has to make a decision. Is he going to play this shit safe, get every check, and see if he's going to get Deku Mask? In a dungeon? In a dungeon? No. No. Or is he going to go big fucking dick, go mode every single dungeon, skip eggs, and go for the fastest fucking shit he's ever done? I'm thinking big dick.